Today we're going to take a look at slope, and slope is how steep a line is. We're going to take a look at several different graphs to identify the slope just by looking at the pictures, and then we're going to calculate the slope as well. Slope is a ratio, and it is the ratio of vertical change to horizontal change. Some of us may know this as rise over run. You'll hear that slope is equal to the fraction of rise over run. You also might see it with this triangle. That's the change in y value over the change in x value. Rise is how high you go up or down as you move from one point to the next point on a line. And the run is the side-to-side motion, left or right, as again you're moving from one side to the left. M is the letter, the variable that we use to denote the slope of a line. What we need to do is identify 2 points off of the line, write down their ordered pairs, and then calculate the rise and the run and put it as a fraction, the change in rise over the change in run. It's also, and this is what we'll use, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That means we take a look at the ordered pairs given, and we're going to subtract the y values together. That goes on the top. That's the change in y. And then we'll subtract the x's from each other, and that will go on the bottom. We leave slope as a fraction. Please do not change it to a mixed number if it's improper. Do not change it into a decimal. Slope is a fraction, showing the two types of change, the change in y over the change in x. Excuse me, if you have a line, your slope will be the same value for any 2 points that you pick off your line. Keep in mind this is a fraction, so we do want to have it simplified. So let's take a look at our first set of examples. We have 2 points on our line, -4, 2 and 2, 6. So what I like to do is just decide which ordered pair comes first, which one comes second, and call it ordered pair 1 and ordered pair 2. We want to always read our graph from left to right as we're working with slope. So I'm going to pick this one as ordered pair 1, and then this one as ordered pair 2. So if I take a look, x sub 1 is going to be -4, and y sub 1 is 2. That comes from the first ordered pair. The second ordered pair will be my x2 and my y2. Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and calculate. So let me erase my line here so I can go ahead and work on it down below. So remember, it's the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to write my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We need to keep the order consistent for the change in x's and the change in y's. When we go ahead and work on this, 6 minus 2 is 4, and 2 minus a -4. It's really 2 plus 4. That gives me 6. Now this is the slope, however, I should always simplify it. 2 goes into both of these values, so it changes to 2/3. That's my slope. That means for every 2 points you go up, you're headed 3 over to the right. For every 2 points you go up, 2 spaces I should say, you go over 3 points and you get to the next point on your line. Take a look at the next example, calculating the slope. You've got 2 ordered pairs here. So again, I'm going to look at my picture. We're reading it from left to right. So the first dot I come to on my graph is 3, 5. So that's going to be ordered pair 1. And then over here, this one's ordered pair 2. So when I take a look at it, x sub 1 is 3. Y sub 1 is 5. X sub 2 is 6. Y sub 2 is -1. This is not an exponent, these little numbers here. they're telling you that's the x from the first ordered pair that you come to and the y from the first ordered pair. So now when we calculate slope, remember it's the change in y. So y2 minus y1 over the change of x, 6 minus 3. Be careful with your negatives. Use your calculator if you need. -1 minus 5 is -6. 6 minus 3 is 3. And I'm going to go ahead and reduce this. Both can be divided by 3. -6 divided by 3 is 2. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. You can either leave it as this fraction 2 over 1, or you could just write down a slope of 2. I think it'd be helpful as we're starting with slope to keep it in fraction form. This way you can see, and it should be negative. My apologies, I lost my negative sign. Definitely put that in there. You can see here that we're going to drop down 2 spaces and run to the right 1 space. Drop down 2 and head over 1. Down 2 and head over 1. And we're going to, if we keep doing that, we keep hitting the line. That's our slope. We'll take a look at this last example. So go ahead, as I read it from, again, left to right, this is my first ordered pair, this is my second ordered pair. So x1 is -2, y1 is 4, x2 is 4, y2 is 4. So again, remember it's your change in y values, y2 minus y1 over the change in x values, x2 minus x1. We had a double negative there. When we subtract, we get 0 over 6. And I should go ahead and see if I can simplify this. 0 divided by 6 is 0. So if I have a slope of 0, I can just write 0 rather than the fraction. So as you see, if I look at the fraction, I don't get to go anywhere up or down, but I do get to move over to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I get a new point on my line. This is how you calculate slope given 2 ordered pairs. Some things to know. Again, as you read your graph from left to right, if your graph is heading up the paper, this will be a positive slope, which means the slope, whatever you calculated it, this is 4 over 6 or 2/3. This is a positive value. A positive slope means my line is increasing as I read it from left to right. If it's a negative sloping line, then it's decreasing again as you read it from left to right. So this is falling down the paper. We also calculated a zero slope. A zero slope is a horizontal line. It is flat. It is flat. If you have a vertical line, and we didn't calculate this one yet, but a vertical line is called an undefined slope. And the reason being, if I look at my 2 ordered pairs, let me call this one 1, that one 2, and if I set up my subtraction problem, I've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to get a 4 over 0. Are you allowed to divide by 0? Try it. Put it in your calculator. Do 4 divided by 0. On your calculator, it tells you something like error, but in math, that's called undefined. So if you have a vertical line, you have an undefined slope. Also, as we're looking at slope, notice this horizontal line is 0. It's pretty flat. The bigger the value of slope, the more steep your line is. And if your slope is small, closer to 0, then your line is fairly flat. You might have to find slope given a table of values. Remember, these are just ordered pairs. And it doesn't matter which two ordered pairs you pick, because they're telling you this is a linear equation, so this table forms a line, the slope will be the same regardless of which two ordered pairs you pick. So I'm going to go ahead and just work on the first two ordered pairs. But you could pick the first and the last. You could pick the two in the middle, whichever works for you, you pick. And then go ahead and calculate your slope. So I have two ordered pairs. I've got 5, 4, and I have 8, 10. I'm going to call this one ordered pair 1, that one ordered pair 2, so I know how to place it correctly in my slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 10 minus 4 is 6. 8 minus 5 is 3. I can reduce this to 2 or 2 over 1. And that would be my slope for any of the other 2 points that I pick as well, because they are telling us these all form a line. Sometimes you're given a slope and asked to find a coordinate. Ooh, tricky. It says find the value of x so that the line passes through the points 2, 3, and x9 and has a slope of 2/3. Well, this is just solving an equation, and we're going to use this here to figure this out. So I'm going to call this ordered pair 1, that ordered pair 2, and we already know what they're equal to for slope. So I'm going to set up my equation. y2 minus y1 over x2, and in this case we don't know what the x is, minus x1, but we do know the fraction that it's equivalent to. We know it's equal to 2/3. We know the slope already, so they're not asking us to find the slope. They're wondering what this x is here. So we're going to simplify what we can. On the left side, I can simplify 9 minus 3, which is 6. And from here, you should recognize that you do have a proportion. And when we learned proportions, we said we would cross multiply, which means we're going to multiply across the diagonal and set it to the other diagonal. Just be careful when you multiply on the other diagonal, you're taking 2 times the whole quantity x minus 2, so you're going to need parentheses. I'm going to go ahead and keep working on this equation. Distribution occurs. Don't forget to distribute fully. And now we're just solving an equation. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 to both sides to get 20 equals 2x. And my last step is to divide by 2. And we'll get x to equal 10. So now we know, whoa, that was messy. Now we know what the x has to equal to plug right in here so that we get a slope of 2/3. You have some practice problems to try. So you've got 3 different slope problems, 2 from ordered pairs, 1 from a table of values, and then you have a bonus. If you're missing part of an ordered pair but you already know the slope, we're asking you to go ahead and find that for the bonus. So take a minute to go ahead and calculate that. Okay, you have your answer for A, the slope is 2 or 2 over 1. For B, our slope is -2 or -2 over 1. When we take a look at C, it says find the slope. And here we have a whole big chart. We picked 2 values. I picked the middle ones this time and went ahead and found my slope. Now when I did it, I got 3 over -5, but that's equivalent to -3 over 5, or even writing it with a negative sign out in front, 3 over 5. So just keep that in mind. All of those are equivalent, but I should only see the negative sign in one place, not in both. It shouldn't be top and bottom. It should either be on the top or on the bottom or out in front. At our last one, we had to find the y. So we set up our slope equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals 1/2. We plugged in our values and noticed it was a proportion, so we went ahead and cross multiplied. 2 times 1 is 2 equals 2 times 7 minus y. Solve your equation, you'll get your y to equal 6 or 6 over